Hey everyone! So this is going to be my first ever movie review, and today we're going to be talking about Iron Man. I love this movie. I think it's a great movie. I feel that one thing this movie has that separates it from other superhero movies is the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is great as Iron Man. The personality is great, the charisma is great. I feel like the movie does a good job of trying not to fall into too many tropes and simply telling its own story. Iron Man's the biggest thing on the planet, but at the time nobody knew who Iron Man was. The screenwriters knew that they had to be different with this story. They couldn't just do the same thing as Spider-Man or X-Men. They had to do something that was original in terms of its tone, in terms of its style. That's what helps make this movie great. The cast is great. Jon Favreau is happy, is great. Jeff Bridges is great as the villain. Even Terrence Howard was great. I mean, I know they replaced him with Don Cheadle in the future films, but he was solid in this movie. It's cast really well, and it's also a really interesting, original character, an original kind of story. Because we've never seen a hero like Tony Stark. We're so used to seeing Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Wolverine, who are all these like dramatic characters, but they have their flaws, which sort of stems from having to be the hero and having to do the right thing despite the obstacles. And Iron Man's the first character who's just kind of a smartass. Eventually, he does become the hero from learning the importance of saving lives and helping people throughout the story and not wasting his life and throwing it away. But it's interesting that his character is that kind of a smart alecky kind of asshole, but it works because he's a lovable asshole, like Han Solo. Some of the negatives, I guess you could say, about this movie is that, one, it is a very simple story. You know how this is gonna end. He has to fight the bad guy, he beats him. You know how, okay, he becomes Iron Man. It's a very clear story which anyone could figure out how it's gonna end. And I think the other biggest factor is that when you watch it by itself, it feels like a chapter movie. Like, this is the chapter of how Tony Stark became Iron Man. And because we have all the other future sequels and films that came after it, we know where his character goes, which is what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe very ingenious, is that they know how to make movies that when you watch their sequels, it makes you want to revisit the previous films, and you enjoy the previous films even more now because you know what's going to come after this. If you just saw Iron Man by itself, you would enjoy it as like a smart, simple, entertaining, funny kind of personality-driven story. But it's because you know where this is all going to lead to, where Tony Stark's going to go, and how it's going to lead to even more great, awesome, funny scenes in future films, which is why this universe has been so successful. The Marvel Cinematic Universe knew where they wanted to take this character, what direction they wanted to go with it. And that's why when you see a sequel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it doesn't feel like we just have to do a sequel to make more money and do bigger, better. It's, no, we're gonna continue the story. That's what makes it a chapter movie though. It isn't exactly a film that I feel you can just watch by itself and enjoy. It's something that you can enjoy if you are planning on watching the future films afterwards. But it is a great origin story, and it's a great film to really assess if you are ever going to be a Marvel fan or if you are going to be interested in this universe or not. The villain is pretty simple. It's basically just a bigger Iron Man suit. But Jeff Bridges is just so good as the villain, so interesting, so funny, has so much personality and charm that even though the villain itself is creatively simple, he has so much personality. And that's the one thing that I give this movie credit, is that yes, it has a simple story, but everyone just has great personality. This film has a lot of personality and tone. It knows how to not be another generic superhero film and be its own thing. And a huge credit of that does go to Jon Favreau, its director. I mean, before Iron Man, the man has not done any big budget summer blockbuster films. Like, he was never known for that. He was known for doing small independent films like Swingers from the 90s. But he knows how to direct personality in his films. He knows how to take simple stories and inject enough personality to where you want to see where these characters go. You want to see what they're doing. And even if they're doing something as simple as them talking over the stock of their company and just giving each other pizza, That one scene is just perfect in that movie, and it works great. For personal reasons as to why I like this movie is I watched this when I was 12 years old, and it was around that time when I was slowly developing my love for science and technology. Like, I grew up reading science fiction books, so I was always into that, but Iron Man really cemented how practical it could be to do something with science and technology that can be used to save lives and help people. That movie spoke to me in that way, and why I love that movie so much.
I just finally know what I have to do. And I know in my heart that it's right.
It's interesting now when you look at how insane the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, how out there it is, that the first Iron Man is just so grounded compared to that. A lot of this movie has so much practical effects. I mean, there's obviously CGI, but a lot of it is practical effects. And just the idea of him in a cave creating that first bulky Iron Man suit is so realistic and gritty and grounded that it's great. There are Easter eggs throughout this movie, like Phil Coulson, like the end credit scene with Nick Fury as S.H.I.E.L.D. But unlike other studios that try to replicate what they did, the MCU was very patient and smart about creating their universe. They knew that their first movie, we can't just tease Avengers. Let's just tell a good movie. Let's not worry about whether like this movie's gonna be good or bad, or whether we have to like give teasers or a little Easter egg so that people will want to come back and see it for future films. It's like, just tell a good story. It has great pacing, it has great writing, it has great personality. The dialogue is so interesting and engaging that it makes up for a very simple kind of a 3-act story. And that's what Iron Man is. It's just a genuinely good film.